Morning. It's a Sunday morning, and I'm hungry, and I want. That's my oven getting a temp. I'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, I'm hungry, and I decided I wanted some biscuits, and I figured, you know what? I will share that recipe and my know-how with y'all. And yeah, there's a lot of biscuit recipes out there on YouTube, on the internet, and everything, but this is how I do it. It's quick, it's easy, it's tasty. That's the important thing. So let's go ahead and get started. So anyway, I've got a small cast iron skillet here. I like using the cast iron skillet because it gives a pretty good result. And what I'm going to do is I'm putting a little blob of Crisco in here, and this is, I don't know, maybe half a tablespoon, something, or close to it. And all I'm doing is I'm putting it in the oven. That's the oven you heard that beeped a moment ago when it got to temperature, 450 degrees. So, cast iron skillet in the oven. You could certainly use a glass pan, just a regular baking sheet if you wanted to. I just like the cast iron with the Crisco. Gives me great results. And by the time I'm done doing the next step here, or getting the dough ready, we're gonna be ready to go with the skillet. So anyway, in a mixing bowl, I have put a heaping cup of flour. So a cup and a tablespoon, but if you measure by weight, it's about 130, 140 grams, somewhere in there. And it's all-purpose flour, just your regular all-purpose flour. You could certainly use wheat flour. You could use whole wheat white, whatever whatever kind of flour you want. All-purpose flour gives it, I think, a pretty good crumb. To this, I am going to add 3 ingredients, and they're sliding around in the bowl. But I have a teaspoon of baking powder. I have a 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. You could go down to a half if you wanted to. And I have a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm just going to mix those together, and I'm going to add those to the flour. Take my fork, and I'm just going to stir this up real quick. It's only going to take a few seconds. You could certainly whisk this together if you wanted to. You could sift it if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. As long as you just get it thoroughly combined. That's the important thing here. So, only takes a moment. And since this is the same fork I used to scoop the Crisco, I want to get the bits off there. Now, I need 2 tablespoons of Crisco, and this is where a lot of recipes diverge. You can use plain Crisco like I did there. You could use lard if you wanted to. You could use butter, and I've done butter before. It's just going to give your biscuits a different color. And you could use butter flavored Crisco, which I think would probably be a better idea than just straight butter. So anyway, what I've done is I've added a couple of tablespoons of Crisco to the flour, or to the flour mixture. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to work the Crisco into the flour with my fork. And what I'm doing is I'm pressing. Let me see if I can get you an action shot here. I am pressing the Crisco into the flour with the back of the fork. And you could use a pastry cutter or something like that. Yeah, let's go ahead. And all I'm going to do here is, as I'm working, I'm just going to rotate the bowl and push Crisco in just like that. Stir it stir it, scrape the fork off, and you're always going to get a blob on the back of the fork like that. But anyway, going to keep going, just going to push the Crisco again into the flour. And this is one of those things where you don't have to be super duper uptight or anal about how you mix it. You just want a nice crumbly mixture. And let's get you a close-up here. Yeah, and that's kind of what you're looking for. It's going to look like kind of like coarse sand. And so anyway, I've got some blobs of Crisco in here. Nothing huge. Nothing huge, but again. So, anyway, we are ready to go to the next step. But you know what? One last shot. So, next step, half a cup of buttermilk. Right on in, let it drain. And here is the part where it turns from a science to kind of an art. You want to just stir this up lightly. You do not want to overwork this, because if you overwork it, the liquid is going to end up making gluten. Gluten makes for a tough biscuit. You want a light biscuit. But at the same time, you want the buttermilk to be incorporated, and you want the flour mixture to incorporate with the buttermilk. And you don't want it too sticky. This is way too sticky. I need a little bit more flour, and only a little bit of flour. And I'm talking, you know, maybe a tablespoon, or actually maybe a half a tablespoon. That's all I'm going to add. I'm just going to sprinkle it lightly over the dough, and that's only about a half of what I scooped out. And that was that. I'm just going to stir right into the dough. And again, I want something a little less tacky than that. So I'm going to add the rest of that flour and just lightly stir it. Yep, and that's what I want, a very lightly tacky dough. So, all right, that's it. It's folded over a couple of times. All right, now there's a lot of ways to do this next step. And some people swear by rolling these things out. Some people swear by cutting them. I just do it simple. You know, it's still a little too tacky, just a hair tacky, but that's not really going to matter. I like to take these, and what I'm doing is I'm dividing this dough into 8 pieces. And you could certainly go slightly larger biscuits and end up with 6. So anyway, I'm dividing the dough into 8 pieces. I'm pinching off pieces about the size of a golf ball, and then I'm just going to pat them down real fast. And you can see, again, the dough is tacky, but it's not leaving much of a residue, if any, on my hand. So, again, just keep working here. And this only takes a few seconds. Like I said, you can roll these out. That's easy to do. Just dust your board with some flour. But again, this is how my mom did it. This is how my grandmother did it. This is how I do it. And that's going to get me a nice shaped biscuit. And there's nothing fancy about these. These are something that's quick. Hesitate to use the word dirty because we're talking about food. Quick and easy to do. So, and that is it. So, now you remember that skillet I put in the oven? It's time to get that one back. It's time to get that bad boy out. So, it's a 450-degree oven. Definitely want to use an oven mitt. There we go. And you can probably see, yeah, you can see the Crisco floating around in there. And that's exactly what I want. And I don't know if you can hear it sizzling, but yeah, there we go. And I'm crowding my pan a little bit here. I'll freely admit that. But that's okay, because I like the way these come out after, when they rise next to each other, like they're going to. So I put them in the pan, and the next step And this is the tricky one. You take the fork and you just scoop each one, lift each one up, and you flip it over. And this takes a moment, but this is worth it for the final result. And I'm making a mess here. And you can use a bigger pan if you wanted to. That's totally up to you. I like the way, again, I like those smaller pans. So what's happened is the tops of these biscuits have soaked up that extra Crisco, and now they're going to fry while they're in the oven. So I'm setting the timer to 8 minutes and letting it go. Because like I said, this is the part where it is kind of an art rather than a science. It's going to depend on your oven. It's going to depend on the humidity. It's going to depend on how loose your biscuit dough is. So at this point, it's kind of, you know, I've got a pretty good feel for how things are going to work for me. You know, do a little experiment. But the thing to remember is you can always leave them in for an extra minute if you need to. So anyway, I'm going to clean up here, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like when it's time to take these out. So be right back. In 5, 4, 3. Alrighty. They're ready to come out. I checked them while they were baking. Yeah, there we go. Those look gorgeous. Anyway, like I said, I checked them while they were baking, and I thought they needed an extra minute. So anyway, that's how they're looking. Let me get you a bit more of an action shot here, but you can see that they're just going to kind of break apart in the pan, and that's the color you want on the bottom. Nice and lightly browned, and you know, a pretty pale top, but still firm. So let's go over to the table and get an action shot, okay? All right, we've got some piping hot biscuits fresh out of the oven, and this is how I like to eat them. It's very simple. Just take some butter, set them on there, and let it melt in a little bit. But anyway, like I said, here's the biscuit, and you can cut these if you want to. They're a bit crumbly, but they just pull apart super easy. I don't know if you can see the steam coming out of there, but oh yeah, you can smell the buttermilk. And like I said, if you were to make these with some butter, the color would be a little different, but the flavor would be pretty much about the same. Like I said, just a touch buttery, and you could certainly make them with butter flavored Crisco. So anyway, got them pulled apart, and the way I like to eat them, couple, you know, do it however you want. You know, it's your biscuit, but I just like to slather a blob of jam on there, and there we go. Nothing like a nice, warm, well, hot, hot biscuit right out of the oven. And they keep really, really well. You can leave them on the stovetop for a day or so, or you don't even have to cover them, and you can just toast them right back to life. And they're great cold as well. Another good way for these, the butter, blob of honey. Maple syrup is good for this too, especially if you've got some bacon to go with it. Oops. And yeah. So both are good, easy to do, makes a great breakfast. Perfect for a side of bacon, with a side of bacon, scrambled eggs, sausage, or some fried chicken, something like that. So anyway, hope you found this useful, and I hope it made you hungry. It certainly did me. So I got a pan of biscuits to deal with. So with that, I'll talk to you later. Bye.